I am Saroja Wadinambiarachi. I'm the youngest daughter of George Wadinambiarachi and Kusuma. My dad was at the Department of Management Studies. He was actually responsible for opening up the hospitality school in the Bahamas, yes. We arrived in Jamaica in 1969. For the first year, we lived up in Cherry Gardens. My father studied in Canada, but three children were left back in Sri Lanka. We did not speak English. So when we came to Jamaica in 69 from Sri Lanka, we came in September on a weekend. We had to start school on Monday. I was 10 years old. I did not know how to speak English. But anyway, I survived. I'm here still. We spent 1 year going to Prairie, but then my dad wanted us to go to public school. So we moved to 8 college schools beside the Richards and the Good Bodies and the Wades on one side. And we went to St. Andrews. My experience here has been wonderful. I mean, everybody's talked about it growing up. I mean, it was the best thing. You know, you came home from school, you change into your regular clothes and jump the gully and walk to the Chan's house. And Carolyn and I would, stay on the balcony and watch all the boys, and then we'd take a walk to the football field because, and then we watched the ball. And that was the best thing because I think the best thing was, I tell people, my friends now, I said, we all went out with each other, and sometimes several. Like I did this one, and then this one, and this one. So we had a good pool. We had a good pool of contenders. So thank you very much to the community. Oh, I'm sorry, and my siblings. I'm the youngest. My eldest brother is Vishwaka. He's no longer known as that. He's known as Vish. And my sister is Anoja.
Can I say, your parents are rated highly in the list of parents. I don't know anywhere where there was better curry. And when he followed us from Trinidad,
Yes.
I don't know anywhere where we had better parties.
Yes, that's true, Prof. That's true. Yes.
My parents are Ken and Barbara Stewart. That was the medical school. I have an older sister, Andrea Stewart, and a younger sister, Linda Stewart. Am I the only person who ever only lived on College Common?
No.
Okay, you, all right. Because to me, I was growing up, West Road was kind of like North Korea. South Korea, we were civilized people and North, So just so you know, but I didn't realize how many people actually lived on West Road as well.
Richard Brooks and Brian, but known by everybody as Tommy Brooks. Yes. And our parents are Bill and Elaine Brooks. We also have Michael and Caroline, brother and sister. And we were on West Road from 63 to 72, and then on College Common from 73 to 92.
We had both left.
But we left. I left in 76, and you left
81, and so 29 West Road and 13 College Common.
So we are the OJs. Patriarch
Where's Kenny?
Roy. Roy and mother Leela, 3 children, Richard, Simon, and Kenny. Well, Richard lived at Taylor Hall Flats, then 10 College Common, 24 West Road, 28 College Common. And well, at one stage when they were fixing our house at 28, we lived at 16 College Common for a year or so. I lived at 10 College Common, 24 West Road, and 28 West Road. And Kenny lived at 24 West Road and 28 College Common.
Mark Golding. I grew up at 9 College Common, where I was born. Well, I think I was born in the hospital, but that's where we were living when I was born. And lived there right through, I think, until 1984. So actually, when Gilbert arose, I was not actually living on campus, but I was living where my parents had moved to, not too far away. But College Common, living there, growing up there was a special experience for all of us. John Golding, orthopedic surgeon, was my father, and Patricia Golding, my mom. And I have one sister, my older sister Anna, who now lives in Trinidad.
Right, I'm Colin Smith. My parents, Raymond Smith and Flora Smith. My father was an anthropologist and worked in the Department of Sociology and Anthropology, ISER as well. And I lived on campus from 1955 to 1966 variously. Started out in College Close, 7 I think, the house at the extreme end. We had the Braithwaites, Lloyd Braithwaite and the Goodbodies on either side. Then at one point we moved to University Close, number 8. All the houses were still under construction. Ours was one of the first ones built. Then we went off to Canada and came back and moved into 23 College Common. And we were there until 1966, and I believe the Beckfords moved in there after us. Our neighbor directly next door was Lloyd Best and all the Best children. And they had a dog, Bozo, which was looked like a cross between a goat and a dog.
Kathy Lynn, daughter of Gloria and Basil Lynn. Gloria taught on the Mona campus in the Department of English, and Basil was actually an engineer with Alcan. I'm one of 4 children, Kathy, Ethan, Marjan, and Alathea, and we lived at 21 College Common between 1964 and 1992. It was a fabulous time in our lives, and we have very good memories. During Gilbert, our driveway was blocked by the Beckfords solar water heater. Flew right across the fence.
Hi, I'm Nigel and this is Stuart, my younger brother. Our parents were Ralph and Zelma Richards. My father used to work at the Department of Medicine at UWI Hospital. From my first recollection, we first moved to University Close, right next to the pump house, and used to make a lot of noise, I remember. Where's the pump here? And then we moved from there to 5 College Close. I think that was 64. And then we lived there until 1988, and we moved out. So there's myself, Nigel, my brother, and I have a younger sister, Leslie.
Trevor Aline. I have a sister, Malu, who she and I grew up first in 18 College Common. I can't remember exactly when we moved there. I think probably 63 or 64. And then later at 1 Long Mountain Close. My father, Mervyn Aline, was a professor in linguistics. And my mother, Waveney, is, she was a French teacher, first at Alpha and then at Holy Childhood. I think over time our house became like the headquarters, first because it was right beside the open field where we played football, and then also because my father put up a basketball hoop in the driveway, and that kind of brought everybody to our house as a kind of center of activities. But for me, of course, growing up in College Common was excellent. The thing that lingers when I go anywhere else is, well, not anywhere else, but even in Jamaica, which is kind of strange, is that people ask me where I'm from. And when I tell them I was born and grew up in Jamaica, they say no. They can't believe that. I must be lying. And I've always tried to think about why that is. And I think it's because the community that we grew up in had people from all over the world. And for whatever reason, I didn't get a kind of hard Jamaican accent. And it's kind of a mixture of all the accents that were there when I grew up with. So I think it's clear that I'm Caribbean, but nobody can actually tell which country I'm from.
My name is Helen Reed. My parents were Ron Reed and Vera Reed. They came from England to Jamaica in 1950, and Daddy joined Leslie Robinson in the Department of Mathematics. It was all two of them was the Department of Mathematics. And I have a younger brother, Colin. We stayed, Mommy and Daddy stayed first in 35 College Common when they came here. Then after I was born, we moved to 25. And then in 1962, we moved to number 17. That was after Colin was born. And we left in 1970.
So you were both born here?
Yes, we were both born here. And my parents had no plans to leave Jamaica at all. They had bought land up in Irish Town and were planning to retire there. But Daddy was doing a very obscure branch of mathematics, combinatorics and graph theory. And he was doing it all by correspondence, which is, in those days, writing, put a postage stamp and mail it. So when he got a job offer at the University of Waterloo, which has a whole department for that branch of mathematics, he decided he had to take it. But the freedom that we had growing up here, excuse me, is something that children, I don't think, will ever experience again.
Yeah.
We were just out of the doors as soon as we came home from school. I had limits. I couldn't go past the Savaku statue on Ring Road. But then I was, we left when I was 13, so that was reasonable. It was a wonderful, wonderful place to grow up.
I'm a member of the Gray family. Parents were Cecil Gray and Doreen Gray. Cecil Gray came to work at the Department of Education. We came to Jamaica in November 1960. We were all born in Trinidad. My siblings. Older sister June, when we came up, she got a job at the libraries, and she stayed there for quite a few years. I was next. Then there was Peter, and the youngest one was Denise. We lived at 31 West Road for the entire time. They lived there for the entire time they were there. So I have to agree with everybody, the freedom that we had. We did not, my tier is a little ahead of you guys, and I didn't go to College Common very often. I had my own sort of league on campus. So we went from, there were the Springers, the Figaros, the Halls, and so on. So we did our thing. Mills's were on West Road too at that time. And we roamed every square foot of this campus. We left at 9 in the morning. We came for lunch at 1 o'clock. My mother was 1 o'clock lunch. And we had to be home for supper at 6:30. Apart from that, there were no cell phones. Nobody knew where you were. We had a ball. Every Cooley plum tree, every nook and cranny you could think of. We played tennis. We went to the pool. We went to Irving Hall, played table tennis, the works.
Carolyn Chan, siblings Suzanne and Robert, older sister Suzanne and older brother Robert Chan. Born and grew up until 1974 at 2 West Road. Then we moved to 26 College Common, and we left there about, I think, 1979. But before moving to College Common, the only experience I had of College Common was things like the jumble sale at the Vice Chancellor's house. I had to do art classes with Mrs. Waterloo, and there were pottery classes at at the Miles house. So we did have cultural experiences in College Common, but that was it. Oh, my father was Wilfred Chan in organic chemistry. My mother was Audrey Chan, and she used to work at MRC, which later became TMRU, and she speaks very fondly of Helen Reid's mom, Vera, who was her good friend.
Greetings, John Beckford, John George, son of Professor George Beckford, one of 4 children. Missing from the reunion are Sharon, Melina, and Georgia. So I, being the only boy, was fortunate to have the opportunity to grow up on campus we basically had as our backyard this 1 square mile of almost 700 acres called UWI campus. So we first lived on University Close. There was 6 University Close when it was just me. And then as the family grew bigger, I think we left here, lived in St. Augustine for a while, came back. And then when we came back, we lived at 23 College Common. And we were there until my father passed away.
Leslie Walling, father Tony Walling, mother Rosemary Walling, and the first of 5 kids, Maxine, Mark, Gillian, and Beverly. The whole family came to UWI in 1969, and we first stayed at Aqueduct Flats. The slums of Aqueduct Flats. Yeah. But we were fortunate we didn't stay there for very long. We moved to 17 University Close. And that is where we began to get our socialization on campus. After a few years at University Close, we went to West Road, and I lived there till I left home in '85. My parents actually stayed there until my father retired and left campus in 2000.
Mark Figueroa, fifth child of 7 for my parents, John Figueroa and Dorothy Figueroa. My father came here in 1953 to be a senior lecturer in the Department of Economics. He later became the first West Indian to be a professor at the University of the West Indies. I lived at 1 Gibraltar Camp Road. To my great regret, they changed the name of the road now. It's now called, I don't know why, Gibraltar Camp Way, and it's numbered in the opposite direction. So I lived at the house at the corner of the Irving Hall Gate. I left campus in about 74 maybe, around that time. But I returned to campus in the early 1980s, and I was saying I have the distinction of living in the most places on West Road. I lived at number 5, and then when my first daughter was born, I moved to number 11, and then I went abroad, and then I came back and lived at TMRU Flats, next to Barry Hickman, and then I went and lived at 18 West Road. And in about 1998, I moved to 26 West Road and lived there until 2019.
Hi, I'm Paula Blake. I lived on University Close during the time of my high school. I would consider myself somewhat of a bit of a refugee. I had the privilege of living on University Close with my brother, Emil Blake, and my mom, Guida Blake. The librarian of the university's main campus, Eulalie Singh, was very gracious to share her home with us for several years, throughout my high school years and a couple years after. I found University Close to be a place that was a safe haven for my family. We didn't have, our parents weren't professors of university, but by being there, I was amongst the intellectuals of Jamaica, and I was around kids that were just very warm and embracing. I had the privilege of having many homes on university campus. Many years later, I went on to meet my husband, John Beckford, and we quickly became friends because our parents had established a friendship over the years through church. And many, many years later, after leaving university campus, we met each other, fell in love, and got married, had 2 kids, and living happily ever after.
The campus kid and campus kid.
Campus kid and the campus kid, making it happen.